Imagine a killer who doesn't hide, but instead writes letters to the police bragging about murder. If you're fascinated by unsolved mysteries, subscribe now, because this case is one of the most chilling in history. In the late 1960s, Northern California was living through a time of change. The Vietnam War was raging, the counterculture movement was growing, and cities like San Francisco were becoming symbols of a new era. But hidden beneath that cultural revolution was something darker. A mysterious killer would begin a reign of terror, one that would leave police confused. Journalists fascinated and the public terrified. He called himself the Zodiac. To this day, the Zodiac killer remains one of the most infamous unidentified serial killers in American history. And what made him even more terrifying was that he wanted the world to know he existed. The first confirmed attack, December 1968. The story begins on a cold winter night. December 20th, 1968. A teenage couple, David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, were parked near a remote road outside Vallejo, California. It was meant to be a quiet date. But sometime that night, someone approached their car. Moments later, gunshots shattered the silence. When police arrived, they discovered the young couple had been murdered. At first, investigators believed it was a random act of violence, but they were wrong. This was only the beginning. The second attack, July 1969. 7 months later, the killer struck again. Another couple, another secluded area. This time, Darlene Ferrin and Michael Mageau were sitting in a parked car at Blue Rock Springs Park. Suddenly, a man approached their vehicle and opened fire. Both victims were shot multiple times. Miraculously, Michael Mageau survived. Before the attacker left, Mageau described him as a heavy-set white man. But the darkness made it difficult to see clearly. Minutes later, something even stranger happened. The Vallejo Police Department received a phone call. The caller calmly confessed to the murders, and also claimed responsibility for the previous killing months earlier. The voice said simply, "I also killed those kids last year." Then the line went dead. Weeks later, newspapers across California received chilling letters. Each envelope contained coded messages written by someone claiming to be the killer. Inside the letters were cryptograms, puzzles filled with strange symbols. The writer demanded that the newspapers publish the codes on their front pages. If they didn't, he threatened to kill again. Soon, the mysterious author gave himself a name. One of the codes was eventually solved by a school teacher and his wife. "I like killing people because it is so much fun." The public was horrified. The Zodiac wasn't just killing. He was playing a game. The Zodiac's next attack would be even more disturbing. On September 27, 1969, a couple named Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were relaxing near Lake Berryessa. Suddenly, a strange man approached them. But this time, he looked different. He wore a black executioner-style hood, with a strange crosshair symbol on the chest. The symbol would later become the Zodiac's signature. The attacker tied the couple up before stabbing them repeatedly. Brian Hartnell survived. Cecilia Shepard sadly died from her injuries days later. Before leaving, the killer walked to their car and wrote a message on the door describing his previous murders. It was signed with the same crosshair symbol. Just weeks later, the Zodiac struck again. October 11, 1969. A taxi driver named Paul Stein picked up a passenger in San Francisco. Minutes later, that passenger shot him in the head. The killer then calmly wiped the cab down, tore a piece of the victim's shirt, and walked away. Police initially missed him, but witnesses later reported seeing a suspicious man walking away from the scene. It was possibly the Zodiac himself. What made the Zodiac case unique wasn't just the murders, it was the letters. Over the next several years, the Zodiac sent dozens of messages to newspapers and police. Some included ciphers, some included threats, and some included pieces of evidence, like fragments of Paul Stein's shirt to prove he was the killer. One message even threatened to bomb a school bus. Parents feared letting their children walk to school. The letters terrified the public. The Zodiac had turned murder into a media spectacle. One of the most famous parts of the Zodiac mystery is his coded messages. While some were eventually cracked, others remain unsolved to this day. For decades, cryptographers, detectives, and amateur codebreakers tried to decipher them. In 2020, a team of code experts finally solved one of the longest Zodiac ciphers. But even that message didn't reveal the killer's identity. Instead, it contained another chilling statement. The Zodiac claimed he wasn't afraid of being captured, because he believed his victims would become his slaves in the afterlife. Over the years, police investigated many suspects. One of the most famous was Arthur Lee Allen. Allen matched some of the descriptions. He also owned a Zodiac-style watch featuring the same crosshair symbol, but investigators never found enough evidence to charge him. Another suspect was Gary Francis Post, who some investigators later claimed could have been the Zodiac. But once again, proof was never confirmed. The case remained open, and the killer's identity remained a mystery. There are several reasons the Zodiac case remains unsolved. First, forensic technology in the 1960s was extremely limited. DNA testing didn't exist yet. Second, the killer seemed to move between different jurisdictions. Different police departments handled different attacks. Communication between agencies wasn't as advanced as it is today. And finally, the Zodiac seemed to enjoy confusing investigators, which made it extremely difficult to separate fact from fiction. His letters mixed truth with lies. The Zodiac's confirmed letters eventually slowed down in the 1970s. Some investigators believe he may have died. Others think he simply stopped writing. But the legend of the Zodiac killer never disappeared. Books, documentaries, and movies continue to explore the mystery. Because one question still remains. More than 50 years later, the Zodiac killer's identity is still unknown. Some believe he's already dead. Others believe he lived a normal life, hiding in plain sight. But somewhere out there, the truth still exists, and the question remains. What if the Zodiac killer was never caught? Because he was closer than anyone ever imagined? If you want more real unsolved crime stories like this, subscribe now, because the next mystery might be even darker.